Right, so thank you everybody, and welcome to the Environmental Regeneration Scrutiny Committee on Tuesday the 18th of May. I've just got a couple of notes I need to read out regarding etiquette at the start of the meeting. It's just please may I remind everyone present that the meeting is being live streamed as well as recorded via the internet, and this recording will be archived for future viewing. Could all participants please mute themselves when not speaking, and then this should avoid any background noise or feedback when other participants are speaking. If you do wish to speak, can you please either raise your hand or use the raise hand function, or if that's not working, can you use the chat? And between myself and the officers, we'll make sure that we pick everybody up that way. And can please ensure that all debate is raised verbally and not via the chat button. That's only if we just can't, if somebody needs to speak, and that's for the sake of the recording, because the chat function may be used to highlight any technical issues, as we just said, or if anybody needs my attention or the officer's attention. So if we can sort of refrain from putting comments in there, be very much appreciated. If anybody's got any difficulty hearing or being heard when addressing the committee, can you either let myself or the Democratic officers know? And if you have a webcam, then try turning that off, as it will help with the broadband or Wi-Fi bandwidth. So at least then you can hear and be heard as well. And I think particularly it does seem to affect it is the weather. It shouldn't in this modern day and age, but it still does. But well, it's dry at the moment, looking out the window, so hopefully it'll stay that way. Okay, so I've already given my welcome, and I would like to welcome Michael Clogg and Nathan Thomas, who are going to present our report this evening. So just welcome to the committee. And we've also got cabinet members Eddie Williams, Liz Burnett and Peter King here. Oh, and Councillor Gwyn John. So welcome to you as well. Okay, so the first item is the appointment of vice chairman, or vice chair, as I would rather it be called, as I thought we'd already agreed previously. Not this committee, Democratic now. And I'd like to nominate Ruba Sivananam for vice chair for the committee.
I'll second that, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Have we got any other nominations?
There we are.
I'd like to nominate Vince Driscoll.
Okay. And Gwyn, you did have your hand up. Did you wish to speak?
No, I was just going to second your nomination, Madam Chairman.
Okay.
We don't have a second of a Councillor Vince Driscoll's nomination. Is anyone going to second Councillor Driscoll?
Unfortunately, our other two members aren't here at the moment.
Right, I'm afraid without a second.
I'll withdraw my nomination in thanks, Chair, or Andy will withdraw it in the absence of any seconder.
Okay.
Okay.
I've lost a few votes, but I've never been not seconded. But there you go.
No, never mind. We all still love you. I promise.
Thanks, Chair.
Okay. In that case, if we've got no other nominations, then are we all happy to agree that Councillor Sivananam is vice chair?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item number 3 then, which are the minutes of the meeting held on the 20th of April. Are we all happy to agree those minutes? Yes?
Yes, agreed.
Okay. Item number 4 then is to receive any declarations of interest, including whipping declarations, under the Council's Code of Conduct. Do we have any? None?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Chair. Sorry to check. Can we just check we've got any apologies for absence as well, please?
Oh, sorry, I missed that bit out, didn't I? Right, yeah, item number 2, which I should have taken before the minutes, is apologies for absence. I know we've had a sort of lateness apologies from Councillor Vince Bailey and Councillor Leighton Rowlands. They're on their way to the meeting now. Do we have any others? No? Okay, thank you very much. Right, so the first item on the agenda is a reference from Cabinet, which is from Neighbourhood Services and Transport, which is the proposed policy and fees for placing items on the highway, for example, tables and chairs, outside trading space, advertising boards, skips and scaffolding. So it does cover quite a variety there. And this has come from Cabinet from the 12th of May. I understand, Nathan Thomas, that you're going to start with the presentation of this?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, so I'd like to hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good evening, everybody. Right, so the reason behind the policy is because, to be fair, I think through recent strengthening of the highway maintenance team, we found that lots of businesses, we were trying to encourage footways to be clear, and lots of businesses didn't really understand the importance of having footways clear. Lots of businesses historically might have had table and chair licenses, but we genuinely, as a team, we didn't have the resources to keep on top of it. So we wanted to put a policy together so it was clear, so everybody understood. Obviously, as a local authority, we have powers within the Highways Act, one of them being Section 115, and within that section, we need to control and administer the amount of equipment that is placed on the footpaths. So pretty much, really, when the policy was written, we've put this Cabinet report together, and we would like agreement from Cabinet regarding their placing items on the footpath. We want to encourage these businesses with across the Vale to sort of promote their business and encourage the town centres to look and appeal vibrant and attractive, but it needs control. I think there's some businesses down Barry Island where they take full ownership of the footpaths, and it's not fair for those partially sighted or using a wheelchair or push chairs, mobility scooters. So it needed a little bit more control. Hence why we've written the report the way we have. Given the circumstances of the pandemic, we had discussions with Miles Punter and Emma Reid, and we were trying to encourage these businesses. So we gave lots of businesses the opportunity to apply to the highway maintenance team for outside trading space. To be fair, we had an awful lot of interest from many businesses. I think to date 51 have applied, and we've granted all but 52 or 50. Yeah, I think there's only one or two which we haven't granted. We've been very successful. Those businesses, some of them, certainly at the Penarth Esplanade, we've had to keep an eye on them, but it's very important for us as an organisation that we need to control this space. So we've written the policy and the terms and conditions in a way that we have control, and we would like, if the policy is approved, we would like to use the powers within and the terms and conditions. Yeah, just to make the Vale a more vibrant place. Excuse me. So what we've done historically, the licenses that were agreed were £497.50 for 3 years. But what we found was this was unfair to some of the smaller businesses. I'll give you an example. You have the Wild Blackberry and Dennis Powers. The business owner there would only have 1 table and 2 chairs. And in comparison to other businesses down on some of the Barry Island, they may have 15 tables with 4 chairs per table, and it just wasn't fair. So we looked to introduce a structure just to make it fairer to the smaller businesses. It should be fairer, and we've included that within the report. The dates that we've sort of set, just going back, sorry, the historic outside trading space that we granted to the businesses, which was free, we've agreed and we've extended that multiple times just to support these businesses throughout the pandemic. And we've chosen a date within the report that we would like to introduce these fees and charges from the 1st of July. And then what we've done also within the report, we've taken the opportunity to standardise the terms and conditions for scaffolding and skips, because historically they were a little bit vague and they needed to be agreed. Picking up on advertising boards, I know historically lots of people call them A-frames. There are certain businesses in Penarth town centre, one of them being Sainsbury's, that had 5 advertising boards outside of the front of their property. They're all very large, they take up lots of footway space, so we needed to control that, which is why we've standardised the type of advertising boards which we would deem acceptable, and hopefully you all agree. I'm more than happy to hear your thoughts on that. But the type that we've gone, the type that we've chosen and we've deemed acceptable is, it is fixed, it doesn't swing in the wind, it doesn't move, and it's of a certain size that it doesn't exceed 1 square metre. Okay. I'm not too sure if there's much more I can include. Mike, is there anything that you can think of that we need to include?
No, I think that covers everything, Chair, and we're happy to take questions regarding the report and try and answer any queries that might come forward.
Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. I mean, I do agree it does need tidying up, because you do, it's all become a little bit of a mishmash. I do think, as you say, some are taking more advantage than others, and actually this puts us on a much more level playing field and fairer to those very, very small concessions and sort of cafe space as well on pavements. I've got a couple of people who indicated they want to speak. I think Councillor Andrew Robertson, I think you were first, so I'll take you.
Thank you, Chair. My question is, when are we intending to re-implement these charges? I know the charges have been set aside during the COVID crisis. I wondered if we shouldn't be thinking in terms of, to give businesses a boost, actually delaying the implementation of the charges maybe for another 6 months or even a year, to assist the businesses. A lot of businesses are going to be relying on outdoor tables and chairs, for instance. I know this doesn't apply to skips and the scaffolding, but I think for businesses, the use of outdoor space for chairs and tables and chairs is really crucial.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Robertson. To be fair, I think that there's been lots of discussions between Miles and myself and Emma and Mike previously, and we keep extending the date because the pandemic just doesn't seem to be going anywhere. I think that we've had to draw the line in the sand, and everybody felt that it was fair that we would go from the 1st of July onwards. One thing I would say is that we're having lots of problems with advertising boards at the moment, whereby businesses are putting them out, especially over the island, and it's classed as an obstruction within the highway. But we can't really ask for them to be removed. We can if there's lots of them, but we're not actually offering an opportunity for them to apply for a license, because at the moment there is no fees and charges. So we would have liked to have sort of start the ball rolling, and let's start getting some system to our approach in some respects.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thanks for that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ruba, I think you're next.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for that, Nathan. That was really helpful. I've just got 2 questions, really. So the first one is really just in relation to Penarth, because I know we've had a few incidents, during the last year with obstructions, and I'm just wondering how you have felt sort of the enforcement has gone, and ongoing discussions with those businesses, and and how they're feeling about the enforcement, and sort of linked to that, I'd be quite interested to know how many businesses in Penarth had actually applied for outdoor, for licenses to have outdoor seating. Just, I don't know if that's something you would know. And then really my third point is whilst we don't know, how long we're going to be socially distanced and so on with the regulations, in terms of businesses now being allowed to open up inside, do you think, for me, obviously, Penarth, I'm thinking about Penarth, but do you think these businesses will continue to have, their outdoor seating? Are they showing that that's the way they want to sort of move forward?
Okay, thank you very much. I think picking up on your first point with regards to the bins, I think lots of things have.
I'm laughing, Nathan.
Yeah, lots of things have gone on historically for many years, and we've had multiple complaints. And I think, to be fair, like, I've only been here just over 12 months, and to be fair, I had to resolve it because the complaints are coming into me. So as a highway maintenance manager, I have to resolve it. I had numerous discussions with many businesses across Penarth. And to be fair, I'd like to think that we approached it in a reasonable manner. And lots of discussions took place with many businesses. We tried to resolve it on many occasions. Not always did the business owners get the resolution that they wanted, but ultimately, from a complaints perspective, we removed the obstruction, and we worked with those businesses where we could to try and find alternative locations for those bins. Lots of businesses deemed it, because they've done it for many years, they deemed it acceptable that they could leave their bins on the adopted highway, but unfortunately that isn't the case. To be fair, I think I had numerous discussions with the Railway Inn, and they were responsible for 6,000 litre bins and 8 240 litre bins on the adopted footway and the carriageway. So yeah, I personally think it's tidied up Penarth, and I think it's needed.
No, I agree.
Okay, thank you. Touching up on the businesses applied in Penarth, and one thing I do want to pick up on is not just the outside trading space for tables and chairs. It's also for the likes of Dragon Discount and Wasons, where they have products out on the adopted footpath. I've had discussions with numerous businesses. 11 in Penarth have applied, and they've all been granted that outside trading space. Wasons is a prime example. His expired many years ago, and nobody from the team, because we just didn't have the resources available, nobody has picked him up on it, but we've engaged with him, and now he's moving forward, he's complying, everything's nice and neat, the footways are nice and free flowing, which is the way it should be. It's safe for pedestrians.
Sorry, Chair, can I just say I wholeheartedly agree, and it is definitely tidier. So thank you for that.
No, thank you. To be fair, it's nice to be to see, because quite often I've lived in Cardiff all my life, and quite often I would drive to Penarth with my children, and you just drive through. And then when I started working for the Vale and you start focusing on the items, you pay a little bit more attention to it.
That's very true. Okay, thank you, Nathan. Okay, I'm going to bring in Vince Driscoll next. Vince?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. A couple of points. Firstly, compliment you on the way you've been treating the businesses in the last 12 months. I think is quite good. You've been very lenient and very helpful. A couple of points now I've got answer generous. You mentioned, in fairness to the Blackberry and Dennis Powis, that they're paying the same as everybody else. Well, that's great, yeah, they shouldn't be paying the same as everybody else, but what you've done, you've kept them on the same rate, but you've increased everybody else, some of them by fivefold, which, you know, I think is a huge increase. I'm not sure where you get these figures from, and I just, you know, maybe you could fill me in on what other councils are charging for this type of outdoor seating. And also, you say it's not fair to you know, the people with bad sight, etc. But you're still allowing the chairs and tables to be outside and the A-boards to be there. It's just you're getting money for them now. So I'm not sure where the two what's the word really? Well, two things meet up really. You know, if you're being fair, then you clear the pavements. You know, then it's not going to make it any easier for the short-sighted if they can't. If there's still tables and chairs there, they're just charging for them. Do I make sense on that question?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Driscoll. Picking up on your first point, I have done some research, and I've compared our fees and charges with Cardiff Council, Bridgend, and neighbouring authorities. One thing I will say is the fees and charges have been reduced from what I originally proposed. A prime example: 3 to 4 tables. I originally put on as £530. I think Cardiff Council are £570, and that's gone down to £300 in the proposed report, cabinet report today. Picking up on your point regarding to visibility, I think the difference is if you use Ludlow Lane in Penarth and the Street Food Hut as an individual business, they have the full width of the footpath with all of their furniture, so you couldn't get through. Whereas by controlling it, we will agree the extent within the licence. We will then delineate those on site with road pins, and the businesses are to work within, and then we will make sure we've allowed sufficient footway space. Likewise for advertising boards, you know, there's businesses in Penarth Greg's being one of them, they've got a huge advertising board. The suggestion of the proposed, is a lot smaller. It's a lot tighter. So it frees up the available space. So yes, we're still making an income from it, but that will cover the administration factor from the team to manage it.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. As for the A boards, I remember having businesses in Holton Road, and the council came along one day and took about 150 A boards off Holton Road, and then charged us all £100 to get them back. Mine wasn't worth £100, so I left it there. But anyway, thanks, Nathan. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Driscoll. Thank you, Councillor Driscoll.
Okay, thank you for that, Vince. I just wondered, Vince, we did talk about declaring declarations of interest here, and I'm not sure whether you actually want to rethink that, whether you should. Just a thought. Obviously, it's your decision.
Sorry, I lost a bit there. Say that again. Chair?
Well, we did talk about declarations of interest here, and I just wondered if you wanted to rethink really about any declarations of interest for yourself.
No, I don't own any properties on. I don't own any businesses on Holton Road now, so those days are gone.
Okay.
I think Vince is talking about something historical, Chair.
No, I just want to make sure that Vince is covered. That's all.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah.
In your best interest.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to move on now to Councillor Gwyn John. So, Gwyn.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to raise the point that obviously these charges, tables and chairs, for example, are on public highway or adopted highway. Now, in Lantford Major, most of them are private. For example, there's a cafe being built at the moment in the front of the precinct, and he is going to have tables and chairs outside. I would trust that he'd have to go through he'd have to go through SRS just to get the legality side of him putting chairs outside, not actually being charged by the council because he's on his own private land. Am I correct in saying that?
That's correct, Gwyn. Councillor Gwyn John. In some respects, it wouldn't be for my team to administer because, as you stated, it's off the adopted footpath. It would be whoever the landowner is. It would be their responsibility.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to confirm that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. I've got no other member wishing to speak at present, so I'm going to call in is Councillor Liz Bennett, who's one of the cabinet members for this report. So, Liz, did you want to speak?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I've worked closely with Nathan over a number of months on the street cafe licences, and I have to say huge thanks to him. Some of the street cafe licences, some of the applications were turned around literally in a matter of hours. And also I'm very well aware of the number of firm but very fair conversations that have occurred to achieve the level of compliance that we have got. And that is not only necessary to allow spacing in our town centres and to make it a more pleasant environment to move around in, but also in terms of the pandemic, in terms of making sure that people were safe. And Nathan's been out and about regularly. You talked about the bins in the town centre. I also know Barry members would be very aware of how much nicer Island Road looks now, and that's also down to Nathan and dogged perseverance, I have to say, in tackling that. Through the pandemic, there was a lot of learning. There's a lot of learning through discussing licences, through looking at how they operated. As I said, not only purely for coronavirus, but also to look at how the town centre worked, at how we could create space, how we could have a pleasant environment, because it's actually quite nice if the weather's okay, or if you dress suitably, to sit outside and watch the world go by while you have a cup of coffee, and to be able to look at the space we've got. I mean, we had urban designers have a look at our town centres, and on the whole, we've got quite a lot of pavement space that we could use for such ways if we are able to to sort it. And I know on one occasion with one business, we were working out, or Nathan was working out the curtilage that they would be allowed, but it meant that somebody would be sitting with their back to a rubbish bin. Well, actually, our neighbourhood services team moved the bin within days. And it was all part of that decluttering of our town centres to make it all, more welcoming places as we move forward. And I think that, the A boards is a very, very valid question, because there are an awful lot of them around. And you know what it's like, not only are you trying to juggle around people as you walk through the town centre doing shopping, but then you're having to walk, dodge around A boards, left, right and centre. And, one or two's nice, but quite often it's like, my advertisers give me an A board, I'll put another one outside. So there's a question. In terms of charges, there have not been any charges. In terms of all this work, all this extra work over the last year or so, there have been no charges for street cafe licenses. So all the admin has been borne. And I think it's worth noting that this is not income generation. With these level of charges, this is not income generation. But we do need to cover costs. As Nathan said, we were very under-resourced in terms of this team, and to be able to do this work, it's a fact of life in local government these days that we have to go some ways towards covering costs. But if you look at the levels charged, I was looking. One of our parklets operators was kind enough to share their takings once the parklets reopened, and I would say that in one day's takings they could clear any of the charges that are laid out there for annual street cafe licence costs. So this is towards covering costs. This does not cover costs, and it certainly doesn't make any money. But as I said, I would like to take the opportunity to actually extend my thanks to Nathan for being absolutely dogged in his determination to declutter our streets and make them pleasant places to go and shop, so that hopefully we can get our shoppers back in the town centres. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Burnett.
Thank you.
I'm going to bring in Councillor Peter King then, who is the Cabinet Member for the report as well. So, Peter, would you like to speak?
Thanks so much, Chair and colleagues. I think Nathan's already explained that there was substantially a bit of a has been a bit of a free-for-all, and it may have got out of control. I think what this report seeks to do is to give power to Nathan and fellow officers to exercise some control for a fairer and safer environment, and frankly help us do a bit of decluttering. But I would draw your attention that within the recommendations, one of them is to bring another report in July next year, so that we can learn from our learn lessons from the implementation. Because I really do. I'm a huge believer of learning from what you do and reviewing and seeing if it needs further tweaking. So I hope with that you are assured that we're taking on board all the comments. But I really want to give Nathan and his fellow officers the power to exercise this control. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor King. I don't think we've got anybody else who wishes to speak. As I said, it's come down from Cabinet. I mean, I'm heartened to see it, because the trouble is there are certain cafes and restaurants who have taken, I think, more advantage than others. And I think that outside space is important for all of us, and actually it is quite nice to sit outside. But it's not just the report. I think we need to remember, it's not just around the pavement space or the signs. It also covers scaffolding and skips as well. And I think we've all seen in recent years how that seems to have got a little bit out of control as well. I know one of my colleagues, Pam Drake, said the other day that she's noticed some of the skips are now having lamps on them again, so at least you can see them. Because I think for many years we've all driven, and all of a sudden you're not that far from a skip, which is really obstructing into the road. So, and I think so that does need tightening up around all that. So the recommendations of, well, it's not recommendations, they are actually being resolved at Cabinet, but it's come down to us at Scrutiny to see if there's any comments that we need or we would like to send back to Cabinet prior to the final agreement of the policies. I don't think we've got any specific, nobody's put forward any specific comments to go back. Has anybody got any, or are we happy to agree the report?
I got, Chair.
Look forward to the report then next year, obviously then, which will be a review of what's in place for this year.
Chair, can I come
yes.
in? It was touched on earlier. I'd like to see a deferring of the start of this, maybe from till next April, maybe, as opposed to this July, to give the shops a chance to get going.
Okay, so that's a proposal from yourself. Is that Driscoll, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll second that if you want, Councillor Bromwell.
Okay. So you'd like to defer it till the start of the spring season next year, are you saying?
Yes, correct, yeah. The financial year.
So April, okay. April next year. Okay.
Chair.
Yes, Ruben?
Sorry, Chair. Can I just ask what I don't know if Peter would know, or Mike even, what the consequence, what the potential consequences of that would be in terms of leaving it till next year?
Okay. For businesses.
Right.
No, well, also, you know, will there be? I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
Right. We'll ask Councillor Peter King. Have you got a response to that before we go any further?
I'm sure my officers will correct me if I've got this wrong, but I do urge you to think carefully about deferring this for a year, because what effectively you're doing is you're preventing officers exercising the very control that we all recognise needs to be implemented. I mean, I hesitate to suggest that we're all going to stay outside after the 21st of June, because the Welsh weather is so unpredictable. But the trend suggests, and the evidence supports that our pavements are already heavily cluttered, and it is quite difficult to move around. And I am saddened if you're going to propose to withdraw this method of control from my officers for a year. So I'm happy for either Mike or Nathan to tell me I've got that wrong, but I am very, very nervous about that suggestion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor King. Mike or Nathan, have you got any comments or any view of that?
Chair, I would just agree with everything that Councillor King has said. You know, we need the new policies and the terms and conditions to be able to regulate the street scene space appropriately, to make sure there's a good balance between what we allow traders to use on street and ensure that there's the safety of pedestrians to pass with convenience. Especially given the current circumstances with COVID and the necessary social distancing requirements which are in place at this moment in time. And the other point to make is the cost associated. You know, we are doing or monitoring this and administrating certain aspects free of charge at the moment. You know, that can't continue, and there's continual budget pressures on neighbourhood services and transport, and we really need to see some income coming in to cover those administrative charges. So yeah, it would pose some concerns if it was delayed any further.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, Councillor Robertson, did you want to speak on this?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's suggesting that we shouldn't actually have a strategy in place to actually make sure that the pavements stay clear. I think what Councillor Driscoll is suggesting is that we actually just defer the charges, have a set of charges in place, but you can defer the charges. And I'd like to ask Mike and Nathan and Peter. Exactly how much money does, as a net, how much money does the charging system actually bring into the Vale's coffers? You know, is it actually cost effective anyway?
Mike, did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I'll. If you look at, I think it's item 4.1 in the cabinet report, it does indicate some estimated income, specifically from skips, approximately 35k per annum, and scaffolding 7k per annum. I don't think we've got. I don't know if we Nathan may be able to advise. I'm not sure if we take an awful lot of money for cafe licenses at the moment, certainly not street trading areas, and we haven't taken money for the A boards for a considerable amount of time. So the main income at the moment is as laid out in 4.1 of the report.
But am I right then in saying then that if we bring that policy in, that would bring those charges in then, so that would help offset the costs? Yeah,
it would certainly do that. Yes.
Yeah. So a delay, if we had a delay of the fees, this would have a financial impact as well.
Could I come
Certainly,
back on that, Chair?
Okay.
I don't think we're actually concerned too much about the skips and the scaffolding. I think what we're really concerned about is actually the cafes and the pubs.
Yes.
You know, this is where the issue actually. These people have taken a huge hammering over the last year. And anything we can do to help them and support them, I think we really should be obliged to do.
So now you're proposing is that we just defer the charges. So we need to get this clear, because the proposal is defer the charges. So is it now being proposed to defer the charges just for the cafe street licenses?
That's what he meant, I think. Yes, and
Right, sorry, it was defer the increases.
No, right. I need to. Right, the first one was to defer the charges until next April. Now you're saying you want to defer the cafe and restaurant and pub licenses. So can you decide exactly what you want deferred, please?
Just the cafes.
Just the cafes.
Yeah.
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 So you're looking at just deferring those charges, but still bringing in the regulations? Yeah, the regulations,
yes, and also the A boards and scaffolding and skips.
Right, okay. So that's the proposal on the table. So is that seconded?
Yeah, I'll second that. Thank you.
Okay. Right, okay. I've got a couple of other people who just Councillor Gwyn John, did you want to speak? Gwyn? Hello, Gwyn, are you there?
Now I've cleared at last.
Yeah,
I thought, have you made a recommendation and we accept the, has that been made yet? We accept the report as it stands?
No, I haven't got that proposal as yet, no.
No, well, I think, you see, that we should accept the report as it stands and move progress on this. I think, in fairness, we've got to remember this, that most of the businesses have had support from Welsh Government grants as well. We mustn't forget that. And I think to take one out more than another, we got to remember that the scaffolding companies, they're all, everybody's taken a hit on COVID, but most of the, I know that the shops and cafes and what have you, most of them have had help from the Welsh Government, up to the tune, in some cases, of 10,000 twice. So, I mean, if they picked up 20,000, I think we've got to look at this, because the biggest problem with this is they've got to be controlled on the highway. This is the big problem. You know, it's not just a couple of chairs and tables. And if the weather goes on like it is this year, there won't be many chairs and tables outside on the highway. It's a sure thing. But I think we should accept the report, Madam Chairman.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I'd like to second that. Chair.
Lovely. Thank you, Ruba. Okay. I'm just going to bring in Councillor Peter King, and then I think we'll go to the vote then to move this along. Councillor King, did you want to add more?
Thank you ever so much for the for allowing me to speak again, and also for clarifying what it is that is being proposed. But I am mildly bewildered. If I was to go and buy a bacon roll and a cup of tea, I would cover the cost of the licence for most cafes, which you're telling me to waive. But some of the non-essential shops, who haven't been able to open, you're telling me that we can charge them. And I'm just struggling how I'm going to arm my officers and let them go out there and say to a bookshop that might have wanted to put an outdoor table with some books, they were going to have to charge them. But next door, Greg's would carry on with the largest A board you could possibly imagine, and to still call an A board and not have to pay a penny. So I am a little bit troubled. I mean, it's your decision, and when it comes back to cabinet, we will have to reflect upon that. But I think you are putting us in a very difficult position.
Okay, thank you, Councillor King. Is there anything of relevance to Councillor Robertson, because we've had quite a discussion now around this, and I want to move progress to the vote.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. Just very quickly, I understand what Councillor King's saying, but I think basically what we're saying is that okay, charge for skips and for scaffolding, but basically shops, cafes, pubs don't until next April. Until, I think that would help them.
Okay, thank you for that. Right, so we got. Okay, Nathan, did you want to come in just before we move?
Just wanted to add the fact that we have already given them 12 months. We've had lots of conversations, lots of discussions, so it's not as if we haven't helped them. To be fair, we've been fantastic.
Yeah.
We've agreed those spaces. So I think just wanted to add. I think now we really need to implement this. I'd like to from the 1st of July onwards. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nathan. Okay, so I've got two proposals on the table. The first one, which has been seconded as well, is to defer the charges for those street cafes and pubs and bars, but implement the rest of it, but also implement the regulations. So you want to defer those charges until next April. So I think we'll take a vote on that one first. Who's going to take a notice of the... How do you want to do this, Gareth? Do you want to take it per person to make sure we've got everybody? Or do you want to show of hands?
If that's okay, Chair. I'll go
Sorry?
through that. I'll do a roll call if
yeah.
preference.
That's great, and then it's clear then. Okay, thank you.
So the proposal, I start with Councillor Brooks. Are you for or against the recommendation?
Against.
Okay. Councillor Bailey, are you for or against?
For.
Councillor Drake, are you for or against?
Against.
Councillor Driscoll, are you for or against?
For.
Councillor John, are you for or against?
Against.
Councillor Morgan, are you for or against?
For.
Councillor Robertson, are you for or against? Councillor Robertson?
For.
Okay. Councillor Rowlands, are you for or against?
For.
Okay. Councillor Sivagnanam, are you for or against? Councillor Sivagnanam?
Right, she's just indicated she can't get back into the meeting, and she can't find her phone either.
Let me.
Okay, we'll just have to
Right,
move
I'm
on.
back in, sorry.
Oh, she's back, okay.
I don't know what happened, I couldn't get in, sorry.
Okay, are you for or against the proposal, Councillor Sivagnanam, to defer the payments for cafes, pubs and restaurants?
Against.
Okay. Councillor William, are you for or against the proposal?
Against.
Okay, I'm just tallying this up. Okay, there's a tie of 5 for, 5 against. It comes down to the casting vote of the chair. So, Councillor Brooks, how would you like to?
Right,
Vote,
my
do I have
cast.
a second vote.
Okay, my casting vote is against.
Okay, so that falls.
Okay, lovely. So I assume now we don't need to take a vote on the report as it is then, and agreeing those charges to be implemented. That just stands, yeah?
I think we should
think
just
you
do a
have to-
vote just to.
I think you have to vote, Chair.
Okay, we can do a vote for that one, if you wish. It's the only proposal now on the table. So Gareth, do you want to do the same again, roll call?
I'll do again, Chair. Okay. So this is a proposal to accept the report as outlined by Councillor John. Councillor Brooks, are you for or against?
For.
Councillor Bailey, are you for or against?
Abstain, but only because that amendment we wanted to pass. I don't have a problem with the rest.
Okay. Councillor Drake, are you for or against?
For.
Councillor Driscoll, are you for or against?
Against.
Councillor John, are you for or against?
For.
Councillor Morgan, are you for or against?
For.
Councillor Robertson, are you for or against?
Against.
Councillor Rowlands, are you for or against?
Abstain.
Okay. Councillor Siglananum, are you for or against?
For.
Councillor William, are you for or against?
4.
Okay. So I've got 6 for, 2 against and 2 abstentions. So that motion is carried. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Gareth, for that. Okay, so we have resolved then that we are happy to accept that report, and we've done that by voting. Okay, thank you very much, and thank you, Nathan, and thank you, Mike, for your input around that report, and also thank you to Councillor Lisbonette and Peter King as well for your input around that. So thank you all very much. Okay, obviously you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you so wish, but I would have thought you got better things to do.
Thank you very much, everybody.
So thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, so for the rest of the committee. Oh, hang on, I've lost my agenda. Bear with me. Moving on to item number 6, which is the 4th quarter scrutiny recommendation tracking 2020 to 2021, and then the proposed annual forward work programme schedule for 21-22. Now, obviously, this is the normal report that we receive. Now,
Sorry, Chair, someone's sharing their screen. I'll just let you know.
Right, who's sharing their screen? Right, what's happened there? Gareth, what's happened there?
I'll just have a quick look now, Chair, thanks.
Okay.
There you go, back to normal.
There we are. Okay, lovely, thank you. Right, okay, as I was saying, this is the 4th quarter scrutiny recommendation tracking 2021, and then the proposed annual forward work programme schedule 21 to 22. Now, obviously, the report advises us then of progress in relation to the Scrutiny Committee's historical recommendation, and then also that proposed forward work programme for 21-22. The Coven report is standard, and we'll all be well familiar with the content by now. It's a retention report we get on a regular basis. But I would just like to draw attention to a few items within the appendices. Appendix A, which is the uncompleted recommendation 20 to 21. On the 16th of February, recommendation 2 was that a representative from Natural Resources Wales be invited to attend committee meeting. If you remember, this was the meeting around the flooding. This will actually be held in conjunction with Section 19 the Section 19 flooding report, as both those items are closely linked. So that's going to happen there. And then under Appendix D, uncompleted recommendation 2018-19. And obviously the ongoing issue and saga, it does feel like, around the biomass and whether an EIA required is still ongoing. So obviously, as and when we get an update from Welsh Government, that will come back to committee from there. In the forward work programme, Appendix E, which is the January to March 2021, there's a record of items considered by the committee during the previous quarter. The only one that's slipped was the fees and charges, which was considered under the previous agenda item anyway, so we've actually dealt with that one now. And then Appendix F, under the proposed forward work programme, that's the proposed forward work programme. So we're asking everybody actually whether there are any other items that you'd like the committee to consider. So should we deal with that one first? So, Councillor Robertson, sorry, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. On the forward work programme, May-June 2021, there's an item, disposal of 3 small parcels of education-owned land, and it says as identified in Appendix A. Well, I've been through Appendix A, and you know, I am stupid, but I can't find any reference to disposal of 3 small parcels of education-owned land there. So I wonder if you could actually identify those small parcels of education-owned land for me.
Not off the top of my head. Gareth, have you got any indication?
I'll have to go back to the officers of that, Chair. So
yeah,
send an email to the Reverend Officer and I'll get back to Councillor Robertson and members of the committee as soon as I find out.
Okay, happy with that, Andrew? Yeah.
Well,
because we haven't got the answer at the moment. So.
Okay. Okay. Why does it say it's as identified in Appendix A?
Well, we need to go back to the officer and clarify that.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
All right. As soon as Gareth does that, he will come back to everybody. So, are there any other items that we'd like to be considered that aren't on that list? No. Okay. Then we've also got a suggested task and finish review exercise, which is around school bus services. And with the lockdown restrictions easing now, if the committee's happy, then Democratic Services will begin to scope this exercise. So are we all happy to start moving that forward now? Obviously, there's been delays around because of the pandemic. So is everybody happy with that?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. That's it then. Thank you. So I haven't got any other items which are urgent under part 1, and I've got nothing under part 2. So I'd just like to thank everybody for attending the meeting and see you all at the next meeting, which is on the 14th of June. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Chair, and apologies for being late.
Thank you, Chair.
That's okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Chair. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care. I'm disappointed in you, Stefan.